Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today we'll be discussing about a very interesting plant known for its foliage, and the plant is none other than Calathea Orbifolia. It belongs to the family of Maranthaceae, or the prayer plant family. Now guys, to be honest, I would say that this is not a very beginner friendly plant. So if you're just starting with your gardening journey, or you have just got into this hobby, this is one plant, or I would say the entire family of the prayer plant is something that you want to avoid initially. Probably on the later time, when you gain a good amount of experience, you can then add them in your collection. Though it's going to be very tempting to get this plant because they have really beautiful foliage, but don't fall for that, because it's going to be very difficult to handle these plants. These are very finicky, very fussy when it comes to certain things. So those are the certain things that we are going to be talking in this video, so you will be able to understand much better. Now guys, when I'm talking about Calathea Orbifolia, this also applies to all the varieties of prayer plants. They have the same care requirements. Now guys, I purchased my Orbifolia 2 to 3 months ago and had placed it outside. Now my petunias and begonias also tend to do quite well because they also tend to like a lot of humidity, but these guys need a lot more than that. Now what I noticed, I thought that my Orbifolia is going to do quite well, but as you can see, it's not doing quite well. There was a lot of brownings, but as soon as I got my Orbifolia indoor, you can see how the new leaf looks like. There is no crisp, there is no browning, there is nothing. It looks shiny, it looks really perfect. Now the reason behind this is because I got my Calathea Orbifolia indoor. I have a utility room which tends to receive a lot of indirect bright light, so I went ahead and placed my plant over there. Though the older leaves will still have the crisp and the browning that cannot be reverted back to green, it is going to stay like that. If you want, you can go ahead and cut it off, but what I've noticed is my new leaf is growing really healthy. I don't see any crisp tips, I don't see any brown tips, which means that it is liking the indoor condition. So that is where I am going to be growing most of my Calatheas. So the reason why I got it indoors is, let me quickly show you the humidity level in Bangalore. So at night you can see the humidity is at its peak, almost a 90%, but as the day arrives around 1 p.m. and until 4 p.m. the humidity level tends to fluctuate a lot and it tends to reach in its 50s. Now if your humidity levels are in the range of 50%, then it is going to cause a lot of problem to your Calatheas. Now that's exactly what started to happen to my Calathea, and hence there was a lot of browning. So as I said, you need to have a humidity level of around 70 to 80%. If your humidity level is around this level, that is 70 to 80% throughout the day, then you can place your Calatheas outside. But you have to ensure that they do not come in contact with direct sunlight. They have to be grown in indirect but bright light. But unfortunately, my levels were fluctuating a lot. They were almost reaching up to 50%. So that is not very ideal. Now guys, if your humidity level is below 40%, or if it's 40%, please do not grow your Calatheas outside. They will not do very well. They will have lot of brownings. There is going to be lot of crisping of the leaves, and it is going to harm the plant. You cannot grow a Calathea with a humidity level less than 40%. So you can see with the humidity range of 55 to 58%, you can see how my Calathea started to look when it was kept outside. So you can imagine if your humidity levels are below 40%, then it's going to be even more bad. So guys, in that case, you will have to move your Calathea indoor, and probably you'll either have to get a humidifier, or you'll have to set up the pebble tray method, or you can even club a lot of plants together. Now guys, the crisping of the tips or the browning of the tips, there can be a couple of reasons. One is being humidity. Another reason could also be using direct tap water. Now remember guys, none of the prayer plants or the Calatheas tend to like direct tap water. They either like distilled water or old water, or you can even use your aquarium water, but please do not use direct water because it contains a lot of minerals. There is a little bit amount of salt, and which is not very ideal for Calatheas. If you are going to continue using tap water, you will see a lot of browning on the leaves of your Calatheas. So please do not use tap water. Now guys, when we talk about watering, the soil has to have a slight moisture but should not be soggy wet. So do not let the soil of your calatheas dry out completely, otherwise that is going to be another issue. So there should be a uniform moisture maintained in the soil. So whenever you see that the top layer, that is 1 to 2 inches of the soil, is dry, it's time to water. Now do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Talking about pot size, I would advise go with a pot size of 5 inches. That would work out much better. But the most important thing is the material of the pot. Now guys, please do not use terracotta or concrete pots for calatheas, because these earthen pots, they tend to absorb all the moisture from the soil. As we said, calatheas tend to like slight moisture in the soil, so a plastic or a ceramic pot would work out really well. Something that is non-porous kind of a material which tends to retain or contain moisture would really work out well. Talking about the soil for calatheas, please use a soil that is loose, porous and well draining. I already have a soil mix video. I'll put the link in the description below. You can check it out. The soil should have some amount of coco peat, because coco peat tends to retain moisture and it is going to work out really well for your calatheas. But guys, please do not use a soil that tends to get very compact. It will harm the roots of your calathea plant. So now talking about light, please do not expose your calathea to direct sunlight. In fact, none of the varieties from the prayer plants prefer direct sunlight. If you're going to expose them to direct sunlight, then the leaves will start to curl up and there is going to be browning on the leaves. There are going to be burn marks on the leaves. There are going to be brown tips. So please do not expose them to direct sunlight. They can handle indirect bright light. In fact, they can even do well in medium to low light, but again, not in complete darkness. They prefer a little bit of light. So ideally, indirect bright light would work out really well for them. Don't even provide them with dappled sunlight. That could also tend to curl up the leaves. So guys, apart from this, I will give you another tip what I have been following of late. It has been working out really well, so I thought that I'm going to share it with you guys. Now guys, what I tend to do is I recycle these restaurant containers, these parcel containers. I use them beneath the pot. Now I have two benefits with this. One benefit is because I'm growing these indoors, and if I'm going to water it, the soil and the water might spill out. So this cup or this container tends to contain all the water and the soil that comes out from the drain hole. So the second benefit of this white container is basically it stores the water and tends to act like a humidity chamber. Remember guys, as I said, you can use a pebble tray method. This is exactly how it tends to work. But a very important thing to remember guys, the water in that white container should not touch the pot. Otherwise your calathea will be sitting in a pool of water and there can be root rot. So basically the water in the white container should be less than half and should not come in contact with the brown pot. So this is basically to increase the humidity level. There is going to be this water that is going to give a continuous humidity to the soil, but yet not making the soil soggy wet. So basically we need to have a well draining soil that tends to retain slight moisture, and then the second cup is just going to act like a humidity chamber, but the water should not touch the main pot. So as you can see, if I didn't have this white container, all the mud and the water from the pot would have spilled on the floor. So basically this tends to protect and save all the water that tends to come out from the main pot, and then it starts to get collected in this. So let me quickly put this water in some plants and let me show you the process how I usually tend to water my calatheas once they're indoors. Now guys, this is another thing that I want to point out. So when I had placed my calatheas outdoor, I was not using this cup because basically it was outside. So whenever I used to water, definitely if the water tends to flow out, it was not much of a concern. But when I moved it indoor, probably this is also one of the benefit that it was giving the Calathea Orbifolia for maintaining that kind of humidity chamber. But when it was outside, it did not have this white pot. It was just on ground. The pot was just on the ground. So there again, there was a little lack of humidity. So guys, over here, what I do is I have purchased this from Amazon. You might have seen the gardening kit that I had ordered. So I had got this
watering bottle from them. So with this, things are becoming very easy for me to water. If you want to purchase this, please do. It helps a lot, especially when you're watering indoor plants. This works out really well because it does not splash any water on the surface or on the floor, or on, if you have kept it on a table, it will not drop any water anywhere. And it has this very thin nozzle, so the water tends to directly go into the soil. It does not splash water anywhere else. So it is been working out really well, and I'm quite happy. This bottle is made out of soft plastic, so all you need to do is just squeeze the bottle and the water will just come out. Now guys, this bottle, because it's made out of soft plastic, it tends to self recoil and tends to fill up with air, and then you can squeeze out the bottle, so the water tends to come out without any efforts. So this bottle is really good, but the only thing is that this bottle is only of 250 ml, because it's a small bottle, so you'll have to keep refilling it. But I'll put the link in the description below. You can even order a single bottle of 500 ml. That might work out really well. But again guys, this bottle is also absolutely fine. 250 ml, it's little less, but it works out wonders. Now guys, let me quickly show you. Once I am done with watering, you will be able to see that the water will start passing through the drain hole, and with this you'll be able to get an idea how well draining my soil is. So you can see, as I just started to water, the water has started to pass through the drain hole. So this is how your soil mixture has to be. The soil should only get wet, and immediately the excess water should flow out from the drain hole. And that's where my white container comes into use. It is going to hold all that water in that small little container, and it is going to act, and it's then going to act like a humidity chamber. But guys, as you can see, the water level is very less. It's almost 1/4 in that container. So remember guys, do not fill the container, the white container, completely with water. Remember, the main brown pot should not come in contact with water, otherwise the soil is going to be wet. It is, the entire plant will be sitting in wet soil. We do not want wet soil, we just want slight moisture. So as I said that the brown leaves will not revert back to green, they are going to stay brown. So the best what you can do is, if you feel that the leaves are completely turned brown, like over here, almost the 50% of the leaf had turned brown. So I'm going to give it a chop, because with this what's going to happen is the plant will be able to conserve the energy. It will not waste its energy on that dried out leaf, and then it can use that energy in promoting new leaves. So I have gone ahead and given a chop, and if you want, you can even cut off the tips that have turned brown. If it's not looking very aesthetically pleasing, you can go ahead and give it a trim. So wherever on the tips you tend to see the brown tips, you can just give it a cut with the scissor. Now guys, I will be making a complete video on Calatheas. I'm going to make a video on things to know before purchasing a Calathea, so that it can help you much better if you want to buy this plant or not. Right now a lot of people were asking me for the care requirements for this plant, because currently this plant is quite trending. I wouldn't say trending, but I would say it's a very popular house plant, and a lot of people want to get this. So they were very confused whether they want to buy it or not. So probably with this you'll get an idea what are the care requirements. So guys, there is another issue with Calatheas. If you think that all these things were too much of a hassle, then there is another issue as well. Now guys, because these plants tend to like high humidity, and we tend to use some coco peat, and when we tend to move them indoors, there are going to be issues with spider mites. Yes guys, Calatheas often tend to get affected with spider mites. So you need to keep a close eye. The moment you start seeing that there are few spider mites, immediately get into action. The early the better. So you can use any of your organic solutions that you have been using. Immediately try and get rid of those spider mites, because as I said, we tend to club our Calatheas together, so the spider mites will tend to spread immediately. So guys, I hope that this video on Calathea Orbifolia was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.